Hello, hello, and welcome to Awaken Your Human Design. My name is Moni. This is my wonderful co-host, Danny, and we have a fun show for you guys today. Variables in human design. So when you see your chart and there are those funny arrows like left and right at the top of your chart, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Variable is this thing that's sort of separate from the body graph. And it's going to be interesting for an overview of what is this whole variable thing, because people have been looking at those arrows forever. And when you're new to human design, you're already overloaded with enough. So if someone starts to go into variables like during your first reading, not a good idea.
Yeah, people can really get lost in that. So that's why I wanted to do this today, is so we can kind of just go over that intro to variables, this concept of leftness and rightness. People have often heard of like left-brained or right brain, and being able to explore that. And there's actually like 4 different positions that there's leftness and rightness. So it's gonna be a good one.
And one really cool thing to keep in mind as we go through this is about our cognition into our consciousness and just consciousness in general. This is our walking around consciousness, bipedal consciousness, essentially. This is us in movement and our cognition therein. So it's all about cognition.
Thank you to everyone who is watching and liking and commenting and subscribing and doing all the fun stuff. It really helps us out, and we love having you here. So let's get into it. Variables are the 4 arrows around the chart's head and ajna centers. They reveal how you process food, interact with the environment, perceive the world, and are motivated into action. So when you see left arrows, this indicates active or strategic expression, where right arrows are more passive and receptive. And this leftness and this rightness, these arrows are determined by tone. And so we're going to have a whole future episode deep diving into tone. But for right now, just know that it's a layer below color. Tone is 1, 2, or 3. It indicates a left arrow. 4, 5, and 6 indicate a right arrow. And so variables are your unique blueprint for living in alignment.
Yeah, living in alignment with that which your view is seeing, your mind is mulling over, your brain is literally doing calculations on just constantly, or less so if it's right, and in an environment that is right for you. We can help pinpoint all 4 of these things, especially this environment and digestion. How we're meant to take in food, not what food, but how we're meant to take in food. People have been hearing about this a lot. I know it's starting to get out there, thank God. And that's called your determination, just as it relates to that. But as we go around the horn, you'll see, wow, all this stuff. And then when we start showing pictures of the variables, I'll start explaining a little bit more about all that stuff, or we will. And you guys will get it. It's not that hard to capture.
Yeah, it sounds more complicated than it is, just because human design, it's like there's so many parts, and it could just be like, oh my goodness, and it could be very overwhelming. And it's like, no, we just break it down into little pieces. And once this starts to make sense, like it really starts to make sense, and it really can be super helpful to understand this about yourself and your important people in your life. This is where you're going to see variables like on the chart. It's these arrows in red on the left, and the arrows in black on the right. The left relating to your design side, your unconscious side. The red you can think of as like your physical body, right? I think of like red like blood, right? It's inside, you can't see it, but it's there and it's doing something, and it's physicality. And so the top arrow relates to the sun and earth on the design side. The bottom arrow relates to the nodes on the left side. The personality, on the other hand, the personality is like conscious aspect of yourself. It's what you're aware of yourself. It can be more mental. The sun and earth are what indicate the arrow on the top, and the nodes is the lower arrow.
So you got to look at this 2 different ways each time. There's the way you just read it through, the design side and the personality side. So the top and the bottom arrow on the left, and the top and the bottom arrow on the right. And then, but a really great way for just everyone to understand these is the top 2 arrows are dependent upon the bottom 2 arrows, which are independent. So we've got a dependent set of variables, that's the brain and the mind, and an independent one, that's the life. The life can live just fine without the brain-mind. The brain and the mind cannot live without the actual life. So
yeah, I like that. Like delineation is that the bottom arrows, which relate to the nodes, they're like set. They're more like set and established. And then the top arrows are dependent.
Yeah, well, a lot of the reason why we spend time on the nodes, because when we can get people to see how their nodes are operating, it helps them align a little better within their dependent variable, because the mind is the thing where the mind is the home of the not self. Why not give it a leg up when we're trying to decondition by understanding the independent variable?
That's interesting. So you can kind of like lean on the nodes as being a little bit more, I don't know if stable is the right word, but it
Well,
just,
right. It shows you, it will point you into what pulls yourself more into a not self versus into who you really are, your definition, your type with your strategy and your authority. So, yeah, and the nodes do that. The nodes help us see, when I found out I was peripheral, I was like, oh, that's why I don't like to focus on things necessarily.
mhm,
They said that was ADD and Asperger's and a few other things, you know what I mean? And I'm said, no, it's partly it's this
it's the
my
rightness.
releasing
He
it
just
to the
vibes
rightness.
differently.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And just to explain this slide, so we have the design, the unconscious, right? The physical body on the left, which is in red. And so the sun and earth relate to like the physical brain and like how your brain is like consuming food and taking in information in a very physical way. And then the nodes refer to the body, the physical body. And if you're more active or if you're more chill, if you're observed, or if you're the one who's doing the observing, right? And then if we flip over to the personality side, the black side, the conscious side, the sun, earth relate to the mind in terms of like, how does your brain work? Do you pull stuff apart or do you just kind of absorb it? And then the nodes underneath, it's about how you see the world and your view and your perspective.
So, yeah, and so the body, it's about the body in an environment. The brain, it's about the brain's activeness or passiveness. That's the thing. Passive takes in a lot. Active focuses a little bit more. The view is moving over. This is on the personality side. This is what we have total conscious awareness of, so it's easier to describe to the person. And mind is technically pestered by the brain as well as helped by the brain. Mind is this personality, this who we think we are. So it transcends just brain activity. Brain activity is busy measuring. It's in the ajna. And it's this neocortex of ours. And so which is separate from the actual separate consciousness personality, aligned with the personality crystal of consciousness, that thing that comes in through the neutrino feed. So we're in a giant information feed, people. It's coming in through here, by the way. And so that's one of the reasons variable is so important.
Now we're going to dive into this leftness and rightness. We're going to bring that into the mix. So if we look up top, when it's a left arrow, it in the design sign, it relates to having an active brain. And then on the nodes, it's having an observed body, right? So they may be more active and people are looking at them. And leftness on the personality side is more about having a strategic mind that's pulling stuff apart. And then on the nodes, with the view, it's more of a focused perspective.
Yeah, the fully strategic is this creature that can take a nugget and follow it all the way through to a type of completion that is satisfying or victorious or peaceful or surprising to them, meaning it's correct for their type. It meets up with their signature through their strategy and authority. And it's very active. It's zeroed in on one thing. If you give it a nugget of information, it is strategically measuring how does that nugget fit in with my current strategic view that's focused and not peripheral, my strategic way in my environment, which is the observed, because you're sort of moving around, you're busy, and it's all of it is towards one thing. If someone's all left, for instance, what they do is something they need to truly identify with. And they're focused in on identifying with the things that they're doing in life. That's the strategic left. When we get into the right, we're going to find it's exactly opposite. And keep in mind, each time we do this, we're going through all four different items. These arrows, rightness applies to the brain. It applies to the environment where the body is and its movement. It applies to our view, helping to guide this movement, and it applies to our mind, this self-reflective consciousness that is, that's who we think we are, who we think we are.
If we look down here at the bottom, then rightness on the design side, so it's the body and the brain, it's the physicality of the brain. It's more of a passive brain. On the nodes, then it's more of an observer body. They're the ones who are like watching as opposed to maybe being the ones who are doing everything. And then on the
Mhm.
personality side, they have the receptive mind where they're just going to be like absorbing it in without having to really like needle in. On the peripheral view, then they're seeing things in like a wide lens as opposed to being really specific.
Right. And it all comes down to that word you just used, needling in. You
For the
can take
leftness.
all, yeah, you can take all of leftness and it's trying to needle in and zero in on something. And you can take the concept of rightness and just recognize open, receptive, and the leftness will be like, I zeroed in on this thing and I needled it through right to the very point of it all. And the rightness is sitting there saying, well, gee, that's great. And, because it's not strategic, and then they'll say, well, and we just, whatever, everything's going to be amazing from now. And then the rightness is like, oh, that's awesome. I love that. And it'll have something else to say about it all, having nothing to do with the strategery of the strategic. We need each other. The strategic would stagnate into boredom because everything would be so specialized, and rightness would wouldn't stagnate per se. What would be the good word for it?
It float away.
It would just float away into like it would diffuse. So, the perfume's only supposed to diffuse into the room. If you open up all the windows and tear down all the walls, you're not going to smell the perfume anymore. It's just going to have gone everywhere. And that's the rightness. Because where am I? I'm over here. Okay, look at that. Well, I have something to say about that. That's the rightness. I have something to say about that. I bet you do. And leftness is, I don't want to hear what you have to say about that. I'm saying something about this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they need each other because the
It's a
rightness.
balance.
It's a balance. So rightness supports the expansion. The leftness undergirds and gives this foundation to expansion. And they both love expansiveness, mutativeness, newness, uniqueness. And so they both are after the same thing.
Yeah, I like that. Both sides are necessary. One is not better or worse than the other. They just function differently. They interact. There is a
Mhm.
relationship. It's like two sides of the same coin kind of thing.
Yeah, you partners, roommates, partners, friends, business peeps, however it's going to work. The more strategic left-facing arrow of one, it's like, dude, how come you can't? You're going to have to. Why don't you? Da, da, da. And so they might get. It's about not getting annoyed at the other for the thing. And
Yep.
then the rightness would say, they'd see it in their right partner. That's sort of just almost off in left field a little bit about plenty of things. And then the rightness to their partner would say, would realize, oh, they can't help it. They're just, each one would recognize the helplessness of the other, but to be what they're designed to be.
Yeah, it's really beautiful when you understand it for yourself and then your important loved ones, because it does make things easier where it's like, why do you see the way things you see it? And I see them differently, and my brain works differently, and you're more active and I'm less active, and that kind of thing. It really allows for a lot of compassion for yourself and for your people.
Yes, and it's just the best of both worlds. I mean, this is like an easy sale because at the end of the day, when you come to understand stuff like this inside of your design, you get to keep everything you like about yourself because that's the stuff that's correct anyways. And then B, you get to shed all the things that you're sort of ticked off about up to and including completely annoyed at as it relates to your loved ones and family and so forth. You get to scrape at least 80% of that or 90% of that off of your palate. You'll look at it and you'll be like, oh God, I don't have to concern myself with the fact that I hate that.
Hmm.
It
Yeah, that
just doesn't
it
doesn't
doesn't matter.
matter as much. We can't stand it when the dog goes on the rug. But how long does the can't stand it part last? About as long as it takes to clean it up. A whole rest of the day is I love you, dog, essentially, isn't
Except
it?
those 3 minutes where you're like, nah, damn it.
3 to 8 minutes at most, right? And then not even every time, by the way, not even every time in case there's an accident. Sometimes, that's actually a pretty decent, weird, but a decent analogy.
You'll be annoyed with somebody for a few minutes until you're like, well, that's just what happened, and you
That's
move
just,
on.
right. Yes, yes. Imagine that. Imagine a world that was operating this way, Moni. We do it. We were all doing it for each other, recognizing,
Mhm.
yeah, that's how they are.
Yeah.
So,
We're going to start with the design side. So this is the top left arrow, the top red arrow. Let's say it that way. The top red arrow on your chart relates to your brain and how your physical brain is taking in food, processing food. It's your digestion. It's also referred to as determination. And so if it's a left arrow, it's an active brain. It's always processing, it's always chugging away. And so it's always going to need more calories because that's more food is necessary for the amount that the brain is like pulling stuff apart. And fasting is not necessarily beneficial. So I know it's become very popular now to explore fasting, and it might be for some, but maybe not if you have a left arrow for that.
Yeah, and judge for yourself. A little bit of fasting, because some fasting is going to be good, just generally speaking. But maybe when you fast, you'll just be the faster that goes a good 16 to 18 hours from when they went to bed to when they finally break bread the next day.
Mm-hmm.
That might be enough for you. But you'll find that, yeah, because remember, this is about cognition, our cognition and our yellow brick road onto consciousness, the recognition that I am me here, separate from you, Moni, yet we're all one at the same time. This consciousness field that's always talking and spinning up new heights for us. And it's good stuff. And so the brain system that's taking data, it's measuring, it's looking at the words, it's saying the thing about how the lampshade is shaped, it's taking in all these measurements, it's putting A with B, it's determining if it needs some more complex mathematics for any of this, does it need to count a little higher, whatever it's doing. It does it. Do I like the smell? Is this a good recipe? Are these pretty colors? All the stuff brain can measure because it's got a neocortex here, to do that, and deep gray area to store the memory. Its main concern is it's how it's being fed, because it's already going to work. That's like a hot rod saying, you better keep me full of gas, man, because I eat this stuff up when it's left. And when it's right, it's still a hot rod, but it's saying, hey, I got a little better gas mileage. I can do with less calories because it's more passive.
I have a left arrow on this. It's my chart that's up here. And it's
Yep.
like, if I don't eat, it's not good. Like I could feel my brain stop
Same here.
working if I haven't eaten in enough time. So I'm just like,
Same here.
no, I'm good. Good luck with your fast. I wish you the best. I don't think that's right for me. I'll stop eating at sunset as is my determination. But otherwise, I'm just like, I need those calories, or it's just, I could feel it turn into mush. It's like the gears start winding to a halt because there's not enough fuel to keep the brain going.
And what do we need? We need the brain's activity or passivity to be as it is supposed to be. So when we start showing you these dietary regimens on more complex shows, and we go into a little more of this, you'll be like, oh my God, it's just a thing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thing you can do. We don't have to make it super complicated. You'll make it complicated when you look into it yourself, and you'll see, oh, it's this way for me, and this way, and this way, and you'll get down to your unique way, and we'll give you the keynote that drives right down that pathway to it. So
on the flip side, if you have a right top red arrow, then that's more of a passive brain, right? It's less meals and maybe being a little bit more snacky as opposed to having heavy meals and regular meals. And they may benefit more from fasting because their physical brain has better gas mileage and it doesn't need to be filled up as often.
yeah, like literally. And then there's three determinations for this that have everything to do with not just your circumstances, but the conditions under which you're eating. So it's really sophisticated when you have a right facing brain. And it's good to let the people know how that works, because those right facing brains, do they ever want to be strategic? Angering their maybe strategic personality that thinks that that's what it's supposed to be angry at.
Yeah, rightness feels the pressure to be left.
Yep. And leftness feels the void of the lack of right. That's
Oh,
yes, that's part of the tension on this planet.
wow, that's interesting. I didn't know that
Because
second part.
we're supposed to be in communion. Leftness is fully aware. I don't know at what level, a good hypnotherapist, Tressa maybe, or some good hypnotherapist, her sister's pretty good at it, could possibly bring out some things that might be there for it. But ultimately, it knows it down deep. It's like it knows it's limited. That need not be a limitation, because half the population more, we're moving towards rightness. It's important to recognize that. That's our motion. So
Next up, we have on the design side, on the red side, the bottom arrow. And so this refers to your lunar nodes. And this is like your physical body within your environment. So if you have that arrow left, it means you have more of an observed body. It's maybe more of an active body with more dynamic movements. If your bottom red arrow is right facing, it's more of having an observer body. It's more restful or slower movements. Or, it's like the difference between like I don't know, a BMX bike rider and having a casual stroll on your bicycle. It's like, it
Right.
doesn't mean you're never moving. It just maybe you like a slower tempo and it's a little bit more chill and you're more likely to kind of hang back and watch the other.
Whatever it is you can do when this is the case to orient yourself to observe first, act second. It's really, this is such a simple keynote on this one. One is act first, observe second, which sounds stupid. Shoot first, aim later, right? That's what it sounds like. But in life, act first is simply getting up. I can go ahead and use my observational power to see I got to get to the car, but the active is just I'm getting up right away. And the observer is like observing the active people getting up first to go to the car for, something like that. It can be really just simple, mundane stuff, but you choose to observe the motion of the active. It's almost a one-way street because the active isn't aware that it's observing the non-motion of the observer on this side, on the right-hand side, of, sort of becoming passive inside of their environment and doing, less motion first. So if you have a right arrow down there and your environment is revving you up and making you get busy and you feel pressure to move a lot, it's not the right environment for you. And if it's a left facing arrow and you move and you walk into an environment and you start yawning, and you want to, start slouching and start right away, that will start to tug on the not self theme of your type. You'll start getting frustrated. You'll start getting a little antsy or, whatever it is. It's just like, come on, can we do something? I don't. And so it's the environment and your senses and your cognition sees it and measures it. And your strategy and authority reacts to it right away, confirming the measurements, guiding the measurements. That strategy and authority of ours, helping to cradle it so it can be the right thing inside of your strategy and authority. These variables and these cognitions, the way we're looking at these, just so you know, are at least half of the reasons we have a hard time seeing our strategy and authority at first and accepting it and having it be something that's like, oh yeah, duh, yeah, I get it. It's this cognition area, these four variables, how they all come together. I love these variables. I remember when I did variables, it was like 8 months of just variable madness because Ra would leave clues unanswered
Uh,
that took like, a full
Years to put
re-listen of
together.
all 38 hours of variable to be like, back here he said this, and then when he put it this way, that's why this moves this way, and then eureka.
Hmm. It must have been fun, like in the moment, trying to like learn that, and then now it's how convenient it is to have all the pieces kind of more put together.
Yeah, it's glorious. It was glorious, and I didn't mind a bit of it. It's how I knew the calling was right. I didn't
Oh,
mind. 38 hours under any of the circumstances of ManiGen should have made me so frustrated I quit, you
uh-huh.
know?
But it
But
was
no, I
right
was like,
for
oh
you.
yeah, look at that. I get to do it again. I'll get it.
Next up, we have the personality nodes. So that is the bottom black arrow. And this is relates to your view or your perspective and kind of how you're seeing things. So if it's a left arrow, it's a focused perspective, right? You're like zooming in on something and it's a very specific kind of vision and it's seeing the trees, right? If you're seeing the trees or the forest, the left
Mhm.
arrow is seeing those specific trees. And then the right arrow, that's more of a peripheral, right? That's like you're zooming out and have like a wide lens going on. So it's a wide vision. It's seeing the forest instead of the trees.
When you have the right facing view, it's frustrating because of all the things that wants to be strategic. This view would like, because we see them instantly. And as soon as we see that we don't see as strategically and focusedly as the person next to us, it feels like a detriment, and it is not. When you don't care and you're not even thinking about it, and you have a right facing arrow, it's as if as soon as you look into a new environment, you're on the ferry and you walk up to the top deck and you go to take in the whole horizon or whatever, right? You're somewhere on a plane and you're looking out, all of it. It's like your view slams into an opaque ocean of all the possibilities and all the probabilities and all the various things. And then when you're strategic, you'll poke right through that slight opaqueness at first into like, oh, look at that. That is this. This is that. And it's not that the right mind doesn't physically see the thing. When I'm in a plane, I'm like, oh my God, look at all that. And I will focus in on the street I'm following, but next thing I know, I'm following the next street and then the next street. And I can't strategically hold on to what I was thinking when I followed the first street. And then all of a sudden I'm trying to strategically follow the street and I lose track because it's too much. And it's a fun game I'll play. The strategic will follow that street all the way through until it's blurry and the physically can't see it anymore. There's clouds in the way. And so the street, we need that.
We
Hey,
need
where'd
both.
that street? Yeah, where'd that street go? Well, that sharp focused view will be like that street ended in a park, and the right peripheral view will be like, I don't know where it ended. It seemed to go that way. It's one of those things.
We have the personality, sun, earth, which is the top black arrow. And this relates to the mind and information processing. So if you have that as a left arrow, then it's a strategic mind that's kind of always pulling things apart and needling into things. And you might like puzzles and brain teasers, and you kind of need to keep the mind busy with like little puzzles and things. On the flip side, you have the right arrow, which is more of a receptive mind, more like a sponge, and it's less studying and pulling things apart, and it's more just kind of listening and taking them in, maybe while you're doodling or not fully focused in on something, you're just kind of taking it in peripherally.
You will always understand more. This is mind now. So it's the very first thing I go to on a chart. The first thing I see in a chart, I'll see, things, I'll see the colored in shapes and stuff, but the first thing my eye sees is this individual left-minded or right-minded? So this is one of the very first, because it's totally different how they're going to process the information. And it's really important to note that this is our home of our personality. This is where the consciousness crystal is. That is the personality consciousness crystal, receiving the neutrino ocean, one neutrino at a time, at near the speed of light, processing that one neutrino bit of information, becoming part of the whole, and being connected into the field of consciousness the whole time from it. That's what's happening through this guy. So that's why we call it, that it's trying to figure stuff out. It's in the cognition of the consciousness field, and it is who we think we are. So when it is right-minded, it's like it can't focus on any one thing, and it's there just to literally be receptive. It's taking in. And when it is strategic and left, it's there to be literally strategic and do something with information, have it processed in a way that it ends up in a file folder that it can get back to. Hey, you'd ask right-minded person all day long, did you put things in file folders? Like, yeah, it's a maybe. And the strategic would be like, yeah, you signed file folders. You said you'd give me $50. It's barely worth it, but I did it. All these variables, and the mind and the brain are totally different. The brain is just the little counter, the thing that's gathering data one way or another, passively or actively. It's the mind that is going to do something with that data, is the thing. And this is where we get the age-old question, who I think I am. And you decondition it, turns into who I am. It starts out, this is the place in the home of who I think I am. That's in the beginning before we read for you. And then after a little bit, it's, oh, I see who I thought I was. But I think I'm this still. A little more time with your strategy and authority. You can still say, well, I think I'm this, but basically it'll be, I am this. I am not that. And you get into that. This is our trajectory into the I am, this particular variable. That's why I like starting with it, even though it makes more sense logically to start with the determination. Leftness and rightness. So this is the archetype of how come you never get anything done? How come you're always so busy, focused in on one thing? Don't pay attention to my stuff. Well, I can't help it because, it's like the strategic talking to the receptive. And that receptivity, the thing is, our process in humanity, and even as this rave enters, is moving us evolutionarily to the right. This was 50-50 when Ra started. Right now, if we take a gathering of it all, we're going to find it starting to be weighted 55 right, 45 left. I'm not sure where that number is. We should count, frankly. And sooner or later, over 1,300 years or so, it's going to move substantially more to the right. We need to get our strategic way in order so that we can get into that sort of state of receptivity. It's the original Buddha state. By the way, Neanderthal started out all right. And then the seven-centered Cro-Magnon into, human being, all left. The seven-centered only left. There was no rightness. None, not one. And then now here we are, the mix of the two. So clearly this is a special place and we're in it.
So here we have a very fun and yet super, super busy chart. These are the different combinations of left and right arrows. There's the 4 different positionings. You're one of these 16, basically. Every single person is one of these 16 combinations. And so I just wanted to share it because, I don't know, it's kind of interesting to see the variations. And what's interesting also is that we're moving from leftness to rightness. So the rave, so the new types of beings that are coming onto the scene in the post 2027, they're actually going to be shifting towards the right. So I added some of these green arrows that are going from all left up here in the top left corner. And those arrows are going all the way down towards completely right receptiveness.
Mm-hmm. And the further movement, just for people who want to geek out and understand something here, there's actual logic to this. The wheel moves counterclockwise for us here on Earth and clockwise for the greater global cycles. This has a movement too. It's really cool. It goes from the very top left down one, then to the right, then up, and then over, down, over, right. So it's inchworming along like a sine wave. And then the lower 2 quadrants are doing the same thing, and all roads are converging on the all right. Notice all left to all right and everything in between. And then when you move into the next slide, you'll show what's happening with us.
Yeah, so this one, so the last one, this was the rave trajectory. And then on this next slide, we have the human trajectory, where we're moving kind of from the center here up to the top right towards partially left and partially right.
Right. So when we went through the shift in 1781, we entered into the top left box, the top left variable, which is all left facing arrows. That's where we entered. And then we started this snaky, spirally spiral where the lower quadrant of 4 is actually phasing out. The far right quadrant, upper right quadrant of 4 is our home. Notice it's resting with more rightness than leftness. That's what I'm saying. We're moving here. That top right variable, that's my variable. And then on the way down to the trajectory, the rave, the 2027, February 24th, somewhere 25th rave coming of this first rave children that will show up on planet Earth here. This is going to be their trajectory. And over about 1,300 years, we're going to see that really ramp up as well. There's a long process happening. And we keep talking about the rave. Moni, you should say something about what is this and where's it coming from?
What do you want me to say about it?
Well, I mean, we're saying the rave as if it's a casual thing. It's about as big a deal as humanity's ever possibly known.
So, like in human design cosmology and the evolution of the different types of, from the Neanderthals, the Cro-Magnons, and us as Homo sapiens in transitus, we're this in between regular humans and then these new type of beings that are coming onto the scene in the post 2027. Ra called them the raves, and that's a thing that's supposed to be happening.
The rave mandala, the rave body graph. I mean, that's what it was called and still is. And he would talk endlessly about the beginning of the witnessing of the rave children. They're coming from us. We will be bearing them. And it sounds too fantastic to believe. I mean, frankly, I'm still waiting to see it happen, obviously.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to consider. And we're just kind of like, I don't know, it's supposed to happen. We'll find out.
Right. So anyways, just to put a fine point on all of that, this is our consciousness movement. This is the cognition movement. And these variables are everything, or else our life might as well just be an amoeba if we didn't have this connection into the rest of the cosmos through the neutrino field pouring through our crystals of consciousness, keeping us all on the same basic rhythm because we're all in the same neutrino field, individuated differently through the cognition and the trajectory provided by our variables. That's why they're so separate from how you'd read someone's chart and oh, look at this definition and that definition. They read totally different.
Mm-hmm. Amanda asks, I don't know my exact time of birth. Using different birth times, I always get the two arrows at the bottom right, and the top two ones vary between left and right. Is there a way to know for sure?
Yeah, it's asking you a ton of questions. We want to ask questions. You can take my email, DannyG@DannyGuru.com. Send me your chart of what you think it is with your birth information, and we'll get on the phone and toggle back and forth. I'll start asking you questions about what changes, because it's the arrows won't change so quickly over any given 4 or 5 minutes, or even 10 or 15 very often. But sometimes the color below will, and we'll start being able to, dial in and ask you stuff. Some things will resonate, some things will not. We should be able to get pretty close. It's always a guesstimate, or maybe there's something more intuitive happening. I'm right-minded, so I never know what's really taking place. I just have to witness it and be a good generator and respond. So hopefully that answers your question. I can tell you this, at the bottom two arrows, let's see, at the time of birth, using different times, I always get the two arrows at the bottom right. Okay. So then at least this lets you know that your whole view of things goes from blurry into focused. In other words, you start like not necessarily sure for sure what you're looking at, and it takes a little time for it to turn into some kind of strategic focus, between your arrows on the top, the the dependent variables. So that's something to look at. Just notice that's why you're not always zeroed in on the thing that someone or you think you need to be focused in on. That's why sometimes if too many words are going by, when you've got that kind of view, it might not be the easiest thing reading subtitles. You really have to plant yourself, to try and do that on a movie, because sometimes you're looking at all the other things of the movie and then suddenly you have to zero in on the words only. So you start at a place of blurriness as it relates to how you see the world. Let that take place. Let that be your way, because you're taking everything. That view sees things nobody else sees. And that environment of the observer allows you the grace to observe. You're not just observing the other, you're observing everything instead of being the observed. So email me what you think your chart is, and
Yeah.
let's get on the horn and figure it out.
I shared your email with Amanda. I'll also pop it up here, DannyG@DannyGuru.com. You can also find Danny at Instagram, DannyGuruHD. So you can check him out there. Any other final concluding thoughts on variables?
It's a beautiful thing to get to know your own one of 16. You are one of 16. You might be in the changing zone, which is in the center. You might be on the top right. It doesn't matter where you are in the thing. See your place in the cognition consciousness field. This shows that place. And it's a wonderful thing to start to see. And it puts you at ease a little more as it relates to why your strategy and authority are doing whatever they're doing to you in the first place. Understanding your variables helps you be at ease about all of that a little bit more. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not even supposed to know. When I found out I wasn't supposed to be paying attention per se the same way everyone else is, I then understood why I would sit at the front of the class and be wicked present. And then why I just couldn't stand studying, but I always got good grades. Not always, but I mean way more often than not.
Yeah, it's a relief. Understanding your variables, it seems complicated at first because there's arrows and their directions and numbers and human design, and it's the whole stressful thing that we all feel when we first look at a chart and go, overwhelming. But once you kind of get past the scary bits and you're like, oh, okay, this is just how I function in these 4 separate areas of my life. And it's a sigh of relief, because it's like I have a very active brain and mind. So my mind is pulling these apart and running puzzles, but physically it's like, I like some dancing, I like some stuff, but I'm not like your most crazy active run around kind of person. And that could be what's wrong with you? Why aren't
Right,
you? You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
And so knowing that about myself has been a relief, and I can allow myself to chill in the ways that I need. And also, like, my boyfriend's arrows are complete opposite of mine on all 4 areas. So I feel like together we cover all bases, but being able to understand like his brain works differently than mine. He needs to be a physical, busy body, where I need to be more chill. And like that can cause, if you
And he
didn't know
knows
this.
exactly where the hammer is.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, honestly, for what he does. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that could potentially cause problems in a relationship. You're really busy and got to run around. I need to chill and lay down. But being able to understand it, like, oh, okay, well, cool. You go run around. I'll chill. Meet me later. It
Right.
just it takes out all the tension and anxiety and agitation to be like, oh, you're just different. Okay, that's cool.
And it doesn't stop you from getting really busy, but it does tend to stop the other from calming down because they haven't gotten used to the movement from our 100,000 years of all leftness entering just 244 years ago, approximately. That's it. And now we're this mixture. And it's just really important to remember we're moving from the leftness to the rightness. We're going to see more of this as the centuries go by. And we're probably seeing more of it now in just the time human design has been around.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We got a follow-up comment from Amanda, and it's really sweet, so I'm going to pop it up. And she writes, thank you guys. You're amazing. I watch your videos all the time. Big fan here. Love from Chile. Like, thank you,
No
Amanda.
way, Chile. Cut the
I know.
crap.
Isn't that cool? We have international fans.
That's wicked cool, man. I want to find a mountaintop and shine a flashlight and see if we can see each other.
Yeah, Amanda comments a whole lot on it. I love your comments, Amanda. By the way, I legitimately get as excited as I say in the comments anytime we have like fun people saying nice things. So thank
Well,
you for all your
you
comments.
email me. Thanks for emailing me.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Jen also write, you two are hilarious together. Thank you, Jen. We
Thank you,
bounce off
Jennifer.
of each other well. We love
Yep.
having you guys.